Let's talk about Michael Mann's 1995 masterpiece, Heat. This isn't just another cops and robbers flick. It's way, way more than that. It's this huge, sprawling LA crime story where the realism is so intense, it's just as gripping as the drama. And the whole thing really boils down to one simple, ice-cold rule. So, that line, that's not just some cool bit of dialogue. That is the entire life philosophy of our master thief, Neil McCauley. It's all about discipline, total detachment, and get this, it's not just for show. People have literally timed his final decision in the movie, and you know what? It's almost exactly 30 seconds. Unbelievable! And here's where things get really fascinating. You might think this whole epic conflict was just dreamed up by some screenwriter, right? Nope. The heart of Heat is actually a true story. And trust me, it's every bit as intense as what we see on screen. Let me introduce you to the real guys. Back in the 1960s, there was a Chicago detective named Chuck Adamson, and he was hunting a brilliant, professional thief who was also named Neil McCauley. Their whole cat and mouse game, including a real-life sit-down over a cup of coffee, well, that became the literal blueprint for this movie. Chilling, right? Those were the actual last words the real detective, Adamson, spoke to the real criminal, McCauley. And he wasn't kidding. Not long after that, Adamson's police unit tracked McCauley down and killed him in a shootout. It was that fated dynamic, that bizarre professional respect, that absolutely fascinated director Michael Mann. And this all brings us to the beating heart of the film, Duality. Mann just couldn't get over the idea that this cop could genuinely admire the thief's skill, his discipline, while at the same time being 100% committed to destroying him. This idea that these two guys are basically mirror images of each other, destined to collide, well, that's the engine that drives this entire story. Okay, so you have this simmering psychological tension, and then it just explodes. It turns into one of the most realistic, influential, and just plain loud action scenes in movie history. The downtown shootout isn't just random gunfire. It is the violent, inevitable crash of these two parallel worlds. To really get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number, 1,000. They were using nearly 1,000 blank cartridges for every single take of the shootout. I mean, they weren't just filming a scene, they were orchestrating a small war. But you know what truly makes this scene legendary? It's the sound. Michael Mann did something pretty much unheard of. He refused to use canned sound effects. Instead, he put microphones all over the real streets of LA to record the live gunfire. The sound was so real, so deafening as it echoed off the buildings, that it was described as horrifyingly loud. You just can't fake that. Of course, if you're going to have sound that real, you need the actors to look the part. So they went through some seriously intense training with actual former SAS commandos. And here's a brilliant little move by Mann. He had the cops and the criminals trained completely separately so they would build up their own team chemistry and a genuine sense of rivalry. The attention to detail is just staggering. Okay, so during the shootout, there's this moment where Val Kilmer does a tactical reload. He did it so perfectly, so by the book, that this exact clip has reportedly been used by the U.S. Marine Corps to train recruits. I'm not kidding. That's how real this movie is. All right, so let's shift gears. We're going to go from that absolute physical chaos to the quiet, psychological core of the entire film. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the very first time Al Pacino and Robert De Niro would ever share the screen together. I mean, think about that for a second. The pressure must have been insane. You've got two of the greatest actors of all time meeting face to face. So how on earth do you film that and make it feel real and spontaneous, instead of some big, historic, and kind of stuffy event? Well, they took a massive risk. It was actually Robert De Niro's idea. He suggested they do 0 rehearsals. None. He wanted every bit of that interaction to be fresh. And to capture it, Mann used 2 cameras running at the exact same time, so he could get both of their raw, in-the-moment reactions in the same take. It feels like we're just eavesdropping on a real conversation. And this line just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? There's no hate there, no real anger. It's just a statement of fact. It's 2 professionals acknowledging their mutual respect, but also acknowledging their shared fate. They both know that when push comes to shove, only one of them is walking away from this. Ultimately, it's that deep dive into duality, into that razor-thin line that separates these two obsessive men. That's what cemented Heat's legacy. It completely redefined what a crime film could even be. And it's interesting because that powerful ending, we got almost didn't happen. In an early script, Hanna and McCauley actually killed each other in this big, symmetrical showdown. But Mann chose the quieter, more poetic ending instead, with Hanna surviving alone. He felt it was a more tragic and honest reflection of the real cost of their lives. The film's influence is just massive, and you can see it maybe clearest in another masterpiece, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. The gritty, real-world feel, the big daylight heist, and most importantly, that theme of two opposing forces who define each other, it's all pure heat. And hey, that's not just some fan theory from the internet. Nolan said it himself. He didn't just like Heat, he used it as a textbook. He literally showed the movie to his entire cast and crew to say, This is the tone we're going for. When one classic becomes the homework for another, you know you've got a true legacy on your hands. So when it's all said and done, Heat leaves us with this one haunting question. It just erases that simple line between good guy and bad guy. It shows us two men who are perfect reflections of each other. Both are masters of their craft, both have sacrificed everything in their personal lives for their job, and both are completely addicted to the adrenaline, the juice of the chase. And so the film makes us wonder, besides the badge, what's the real difference between them?